Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the ESPN1080.com Insider Show. I'm Andrew Melnick, your Orlando Magic and NBA Insider, joined in the studio by Jason Collette, your Rays and MLB Insider, and we'll be joined today via the phone by Eric Lopez, your UCF football, NCAA football. Lopez does a little bit of everything here. Fellas, how are we doing this morning?
Doing fantastic. Long time no see for a few of you guys. So it's we had a great time last night at the Predators game. Lopez, how you doing, man?
Well, my friend Jason, I'm like the Rays. I'm down and out.
Yeah. That's pretty much about the way to describe the Rays week this week. Yikes.
Lopez, we missed you last night at the Predators game, but, for my first time in attendance in quite a while, things went pretty well. The Predators' final score didn't indicate the blowout that it was.
Yeah, how do you tell me, guys? How was the experience like? They dominated. They were obviously inspired by your attendance in the arena. What was the experience like?
Yeah, I mean, early on, it was a slow game early on. I think it was 7-6 with about 4 minutes left in the first quarter. And I made a comment to Andrew. I'm like, dude, this game for arena football is slow. And then all of a sudden, bam, 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 and score after score after score. Bobby Scipio had a big game. The glove, Kenny McIntyre, this was his last regular season home game because he's calling it a career. I think the guy's played 39 seasons now. But he had a pick to start the game, and he almost had one to end the game, but they called some roughing the passer penalty with 6 seconds left to ruin a really good story there. But very entertaining. I think they had almost 15,000 last night. Obviously, if you've been to a Preds game, you know it's top-notch production just from the start to the end. Voice of UCF Knights, Eric Kohler calling the game. So it's great to have Eric Kohler in an environment where he can be a complete homer like that. It was really good time.
Yeah, I like how he literally is talking to the players on the other team, saying their names when they drop passes, acting like he's buddies with the Predators players on the field. That was pretty entertaining. And I think what stood out the most to me was the crowd. It was a really good crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, big. Like I said, I think it was the final number was 14,982 is what we see here,
yeah.
But it was loud, and it was all the sections and whatnot very crowded. And again, thanks to J.C. Carnahan and the crew for having us out last night because we really had a good time.
Of course, this was also our producer Brian Winterger's first ever trip to the Amway Center, the big Amway Center. What were your thoughts on the Amway Center there, Mr. Winterger?
No, it definitely lived up to the hype, man. It's probably the best arena I've ever been to, and Mr. David Buckman took me behind the scenes, took me on the tour. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, we had to peel Winterger out of the Grey Goose 180 lounge at halftime. So
Which, by the way, I went to Starbucks to buy a coffee today. Found out I left my tab open at that bar. I got to go there after the show and pick that card up. Luckily, I had enough gas to get here.
Wow.
Fantastic. Yeah, our other insider, Carson Engel, was taking them all over the place. We went up there. I haven't been there, actually, since it became a bar. Just went up there on the tour. Place is fantastic as well. Hopefully we're going to have an NBA season where we can go up there after some games, Eric and Jason. And speaking of that, there's some news on the lockout front there. Kind of sounds like things are going to get worse. Adrian Wojnarowski has an article up on Yahoo, maybe the most popular NBA writer in the world today. He's hearing from agents that the NBA right now is kind of hoping that David Stern just wakes up one morning in a good mood and wants to cut a fair deal. Billy Hunter's kind of slow paying things. And the agents for the players, of course, want to rush things. They want the union to decertify. They want to just attack this thing immediately. Guys, it just sounds like this thing's getting worse and worse, doesn't it?
So you're saying that NBA schedule release, does that give us hope?
No. There's a reason why we're not going over the schedule completely right now, don't you think, Eric?
Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption. Don't book your plans for the home opener against the Bobcats. That's what you're saying. That's it's going to take a while. Look, there's games are going to be missed. You got to be careful what you hear though, because as you found out in the lockout so far, is the media is going to get information based on what the agents want them to hear and what owners, when they give the information to me, what they want to hear. So if everything's going to be loom and gloom, basically, to put pressure on the other side, basically. So you have to be careful with that. yeah, I don't think the NBA. The NBA, I think David Stern, he'll definitely gonna blink. He will. I don't think he has an issue missing half the season.
No, he doesn't at all. That's the big problem. And really, for the players union, their only weapon, their only thing they have left to do now is to decertify and go after this thing. I mean, that's unfortunate for all of us. We knew it was going to happen. It just sounds like now it's going to happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, for the schedule stuff and whatnot to come out now, I mean, that's really a matter of logistics. When you've got to worry, start booking hotels and flights and everything for this. They still need to run the operations, assuming the season's going to start on time, because otherwise it would be a disaster if they waited to do all that until they finally got an agreement. That's going to be panic time. So they've got to continue operating as if there's going to be a season that starts on time, but. It's kind of like the NFL at this point. Who knows if it's going to start on time, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. The schedule did come out last week. For those of you that don't know, if the season somehow starts on time, which we just pretty much told you it won't, Magic open with Charlotte on November 2nd. Some other key points: they play Boston and Miami at home in November. Play the Lakers in February. They'll see Dallas at the end of March, and they actually will have a 2-game trip in London, which will count as Nets away games. So should the season start, not bad for the Magic. They'll have 41 home games, 39 road games, and 2 neutral site games. So that's not bad for them. Pretty manageable schedule for the most part with road trips and things like that. Now, speaking of another league and another lockout, looks like the NFL lockout all but over.
Well, we'll see where it goes. I mean, we saw earlier this week that the owners came out and said they voted 31-0 with Al Davis, abstaining from the vote, and then the players were like, "Oh, wait a second, we haven't seen this stuff. I mean, how is this happening?" So it seems like a power play on both sides. We'll see where things go, but obviously the NFL Hall of Fame game has already been canceled, and having been to that game myself, big deal. It is a snooze fest. So preseason's probably going to get slapped down to maybe 2 games here. The 18-game schedule is all but a pipe dream at this point. So we're getting close. I mean, this is July 24th here. Most times the guys are already in camp. And it's gonna, once this stuff ends, it's going to be a frenzy to get people signed. There's supposed to be a salary cap floor here, and that's going to affect the Bucs because the Bucs payroll is so low right now. So it could be a great time. You could have a window of about 3 or 4 days where agents and players are trying to get contracts worked out once this stuff ends. But if we float any later, I think if we get to the end of this week and something's still not done, then we're looking at the danger of the regular season not starting on time.
Yeah, no, I think you'll have something done, though. I think the players, right, they're expected to vote tomorrow, and I think the indication is they will pass it.
Yeah, and then they'll be in Tuesday, to fill out their union cards, and then Wednesday things will open. We'll have camp in about a week or so, and free agency is going to be wild. We're going to have to fit about 5 months of off season into a week.
Mm-hmm.
Most importantly, our fantasy league, football league, gets to open. That's the most important part.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're looking forward. We got that challenge with 1040 over in Tampa. They've challenged. They put the gauntlet down. They want to do a fantasy football league between the 2 insiders show and see who comes out on top. So,
are you serious?
I am dead serious.
Well, I think Melnick. I think you would agree. I think the edge is on our side.
Oh, we're going to kill him.
I hope there's some kind of monetary prize on the line because it'd be easy money.
Absolutely, but yeah, I thought that's brand new news because they reached out this week, said, okay, it looks like this could be an NFL season. We want to do a fantasy football league against you guys, 1080 versus 1040, and let the best team win. And I said, of course, 1040 is going to lose, so enjoy it.
Yeah, their insider show actually goes on the same time, so when you're over there, you can check that one out on 1040.
They have a hockey guy over there. How are they going to get football talk?
The hockey guy actually knows some football. That's a scary thing. Mike Corcoran's a really good guy at football, too.
They have a USF insider. They definitely don't know.
Yeah, that's a huge penalty right there. If you have USF football guy, that's a huge penalty for you right there. So
for those of you that forget, Jason and Eric, UCF graduates, if you couldn't tell.
That's correct.
So looks like we only have a couple issues left. Maybe drug testing, still the benefits for retired players. That's still one of the biggest hurdles, but it looks like those things will get done. Something's going to get done after the union reforms. We'll talk more about that. So it looks like we're going to have, hopefully, a regular preseason schedule, just canceling that first Hall of Fame game. And as Jason said, that first preseason game, I know everybody probably watches it. It does well in ratings because people are just dying for football, but Eric, the game is awful, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, granted, it just ruins the fact we won't be picking the Hall of Fame game next week. That's all, but that's okay. A couple of weeks. Yeah, I find it hilarious. All freaking out like, well, if they don't get a deal done by now, the first preseason games are in danger. Oh no. And part of me feels if you're the players, I would kind of stick it to the owner and say, you know what, we're going to take our time here because you're going to miss your first preseason game. You're going to miss all that money you're going to make. So
these guys don't want to play in preseason games anyway.
No.
And for me, as a proponent of the 18-game schedule, I actually want to get your guys' thoughts on that in a minute. I'd be fine with 2 regular season games. While we're on it, it looks like there's not going to be an 18-game schedule. Obviously, the owners want it for money. I mean, maybe we'll have it at some point. Hopefully we do from a fan standpoint. But what are your thoughts on that, Eric, and then Jason?
I could go either way. I prefer to just keep it the way it is. 16 games is a nice schedule as it is. Week 16, the last game of the season usually is 75% of the games are meaningless as it is. I think if you go to 18, you run the risk of a couple of weeks being meaningless. And quite frankly, if you've seen the Dolphins play, I don't really want to see them play 18 weeks.
Well, you stole my thunder. I was going to say I'm a Redskins fan. I don't want to see them play 18 weeks either. But to me, these guys are already having trouble staying healthy throughout a season. I mean, 16 games, you see a guy, receivers drop, the defensive guys drop, especially line depth. They're already, a lot of teams already have enough trouble trying to keep their O-line and D-lines healthy enough. And if you're going to add 2 more games of the schedule that where these guys are expected to play all the time, it's not like people use the argument, preseason. Well, if you look at the preseason, a lot of these guys don't play that much. They play maybe half the time they do in a regular season game. So for me, I'm concerned about keeping the quality of the product effective through an 18-game season and then for a postseason. I'd just rather see it keep it at 16.
For me, I'd only like it selfishly just because there's 2 more games that actually matter to watch, to pay attention to talk about, write about, things like that. But I think a good point for that 16-game schedule is the NFL does the schedule right. I mean, they do things perfectly. The way it's set up where what place you're in, you play that place in the other divisions in your conference. Your entire division plays the same other division in each league. So things are set up pretty perfectly. Adding 2 more games, where do those games come from? Those are good questions.
It makes it an unbalanced schedule, kind of like baseball, and you run into that kind of trouble.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we complain about the interleague schedule all the time when, I think we discussed in the NL Central, you've got, 4 teams almost now contending for that division, and you got the Brewers playing Tampa Bay, Boston, and New York in interleague play, and things like that just aren't fair. And you're right, Eric, you'd run the risk of something like that. I mean, what if we're looking at the AFC East? They'll use that, for example, because you brought up the Dolphins. What if you're looking at the Dolphins getting an extra game against Indianapolis, getting an extra game against San Diego, and maybe the Jets or New England, has that extra game against Denver, has that extra game against Tennessee? You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's how it's going to play out because, the way they do the schedule every year, you get your 2 games against each of your divisional opponents, but how you finish the previous year determines your strength of schedule, and it happens every year. There's always a team that comes out of nowhere that has a good year. When you go back and look at it, they had that good year because they had that extremely soft schedule for being so bad the season before. And if you're going to give those, those kind of teams even more bad games based on their poor record from the season before, people complain about the NFL having parity since the salary cap came in. So if you're going to put the salary cap and then do this and give the bad teams even more games against a softer schedule to get them into the playoffs, I think it just makes it to me, a less attractive product.
Yeah, right, because sometimes that happens now. Eric, your Dolphins, I remember a few years ago when they had their bounce back from the 1-15 season, wound up winning that division and going on to the playoffs, losing to Baltimore in the first round. They had an unbelievably easy schedule that year, and this could just multiply things, make it more difficult. Moving on, we mentioned free agency a little bit. Jason brought up the Bucs. If you're a Bucs fan, it might be a good time. I mean, you have a good young team. You look like you've got a quarterback. You had a big-time rookie wide receiver in Mike Williams. You probably found a running back in LeGarrette Blount last year, and now you're almost going to be forced to spend a lot more money. I mean, we're talking about they're going to have to hit a floor of possibly $108 million of the $120 million salary cap. Bucs were in the $80 million range around there last year. So now you're talking about a team that's maybe going to make a run at maybe a Nnamdi Asomugha, maybe a Jonathan Joseph, things like that. big-time players, we could wind up having a really good team in Tampa because of this floor.
I mean, their schedule last year was, again, one of the ones I was speaking towards, was a little soft last year. But definitely an exciting, I mean, with Josh Freeman, with Blunt, with Williams, I mean, that's pretty much my college fantasy football team from 2 years ago. So it's like a very talented group, and they were fun to watch. I mean, being in this market, you get to watch that. And again, I don't pay for the Sunday ticket, so I don't have to watch my Redskins. So I do end up watching a lot of Bucs football just to watch it. But it was an entertaining brand, and if they can get a little more depth on the line, get some defensive help, I think they can be a competitive team here.
Yeah, they can get a corner maybe because all indications are they're going to cut Aqib Talib, the often in trouble but very talented cornerback. They're going to need a replacement there. I just mentioned the two cornerbacks, Asamoah and Jonathan Joseph. Maybe they're both on the market. Maybe they got a chance to re-sign some of these big-time players. Being in that division they're in, if they do things like this, spend this money, Eric, any chance you think Tampa Bay could get into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think certainly. I mean, certainly Atlanta and New Orleans are going to be the two favorites in that division, but the Saints have always been an up-and-down team. They won the Super Bowl one year, then last year they kind of scuffled with their defense. Atlanta, we'll see how they recover after getting annihilated by Green Bay in the playoffs. I'll be very curious to see how they respond. They should be very good again. They traded a lot to get Julio Jones, from the rookie from Alabama. I do have some questions on the Bucs, kind of like Jason does. Last year the Bucs had a very successful season, but that's due to a soft schedule. It'll be interesting to see how they handle maybe with more expectations this year, how they handle that. And it'll be interesting to see the Glaciers have not been known for spending money. That'll be quite a scene, to say the least. I agree with you, Andrew. I think Asamoah or Joseph, I could see them going after them with Raheem Morris being a defensive-minded head coach. I think the Bucs will spend money on defense and kind of be stronger there. Certainly they could use another receiver opposite Mike Williams. Offensive line could use some tweaking there as well. I think that's what the Bucs will try to address. But you're right. With this unique off-season, it's such a short time, I think the free agency, it's going to be tough for players to get a real long, good deal with another team. I think you're going to see a lot of guys sign short deals for a year and either stay with their team or maybe go somewhere else, because it's tough to commit to a guy for 4 or 5 years in a week.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Eric. Thanks for joining us on the phone. We're going to take our first break here. You're listening to the ESPN1080.com Insider Show.
Have you heard? Walgreens has generics for less than $1 a week. That's less than $1 a week for a 90-day supply on over 400 generic medications when you sign up for Walgreens Prescription Savings Club. Plus, save on 5,000 other brand name and generic medications. See how much you could save and get $50 in coupons free just for asking about the club.
Program is not insurance. Membership fee required. Membership may be canceled within 30 days of issue date. See store for complete terms and conditions.
It's not just a radio station, it's a multimedia experience. Orlando's ESPN 1080. ESPN 1080, the team, and ESPN1080.com.
It's the Leaderboard, Mondays 6 to 8 on ESPN 1080 WHOO. This is where the pros come to talk.
Hi, this is Boo Weekly.
Hi, this is Jim Furyk.
Hi, this is Rocco Mediate.
Hi, this is Trevor Immelman.
Hi, this is Zach Johnson.
Hi, this is Woody Austin.
Where the pros come to talk about their game. Live from Celebration Town Tavern.
Hi, this is Corey Pavin, the 2010 Ryder Cup captain. Listen to the Leaderboard, Monday evenings, 6 to 8 p.m., right here on ESPN.
Presented by Carl Black Chevrolet Buick GMC.
Want to get away but don't have a lot of time and don't want to spend a lot of money? You can't beat our staycation packages. Some of the best hotels and resorts in Florida at half price. Half price. This radio station has secured these incredible half price deals at some of the most desirable locations, from the beaches to the Orlando theme parks. Now you can afford that getaway you want and need. Getaway! Book your half price staycation. Log on to ESPN1080.com. ESPN1080.com.
AutoZone. Keep your engine going strong with help from AutoZone. Do it now and save when you get a 5+ quart oil change jug of Valvoline conventional motor oil and a Fram Extra Guard oil filter for just $18.99. Or upgrade to Max Life High Mileage and a Fram Tough Guard oil filter for just $3 more. Restrictions and details at store. Parts are just part of what we do.
Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Advertising works. That is what the great advertisers on ESPN 1080 are enjoying every month. If you own a business or you handle the advertising for a business, then give us a call at ESPN 1080, 407-380-9255. This is the time to take advantage of the summer and fall ad campaigns offered on this station. Call for advertising today at 407-380-9255. Limited time advertising packages that'll make your cash register ring. 407-380-9255. Call today.
ESPN 1080. The team.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out. Champa gets to throw to first. He does, and the Rays have defeated the Yankees.
Welcome back to the ESPN1080.com Insider Show. That was the call from Thursday. James Shields, CC Sabathia battling. The Rays get a win. Things looked a little better on Thursday than they do after a couple losses to the Royals. Last week we were getting ready to maybe write the Rays out. We didn't quite. Since then, split with the Yankees, dropped that marathon to the Red Sox Sunday, lost a couple games to the Royals, and who better to ask about the Rays, talk about their situation than our Rays insider, Jason Collette. Jason, things aren't looking good, are they?
No, not at all. We talked about a couple of weeks ago, back early July, we talked about how important the 11-game stretch was against Boston and New York. The Rays had to play the series at New York going into the All-Star break, come out of the All-Star break, play 3 against Boston, 4 against New York. The Rays went 4-6 in that series. They had one of the games rained out. So, that was not a good run. And then you've dropped 2 of the first 3 games to the lowly Kansas City Royals, who came into this series ice cold. Now you're looking at the Rays being 0-4-1 in their last 5 series. You look at them now, they're 9.5 back of Boston for the AL East. They are 6.5 back of New York for the wild card. And now the Anaheim Angels have leapfrogged the Rays in the wild card race. So it is not a good time. If you got to start looking at things, you look at CoolStandings.com, a great site that does playoff odds. The Rays' playoff odds are at 5%, and honestly, I think that's about 3% too high at this point, because this is a team that got shut out for the 10th time this season earlier this week. And they did finally make the promotion of Desmond Jennings from AAA Durham, who was just 8 at-bats shy of making 1,000 plate appearances at Durham, and he comes up last night and hits a triple, hits a double, walks, reaches base 4 times, and gets some fans excited about something, because right now it's just really not a good time to be a Rays fan, because they are crawling through this playoff race, while Boston and New York are starting to sprint ahead.
Yeah, and Desmond Jennings, at least that's one of those things. He's one of those players we've heard so much about that can maybe keep Rays fans' attentions, at least the diehard fans, keep their attention throughout the rest of the season, just watching him play. Didn't get to see a whole lot of it yesterday, although Jason did have the game on, first on his iPad, then on the little TVs last night during the Predators game, so saw a little bit. Unfortunately, didn't get to see that triple he hit, but that's going to keep things entertaining, and I think the only response we all have to that and this call-up and what he did is about time.
Yeah, but the thing, Desmond Jennings will often get a lot of comparisons to the next Carl Crawford was always the thing that came up with him, but not a fair comparison. Still, Desmond Jennings is still one of the top 20 prospects in all of baseball. If you look at the American League, he's definitely one of the top 10. And now the Rays have said now that he's up, he's going to stay up. And that's a big thing, because with the Rays, they have been very conservative about who they promote to the major leagues. But once they do that, they typically keep you up. And that's one of the things other organizations, the Royals, Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, they really rush these guys up. And you see a guy like Moustakas struggle. Hosmer has really hit well, but Moustakas hasn't, even though this guy was a prime prospect and whatnot. But this is definitely a time of the year when you look at where the Rays are in the standings and whatnot, it's going to have to be a time where you need to start looking towards 2012 and seeing how this team can stay competitive.
Yeah, and speaking of 2012 and the foreseeable future, we've got one of the top prospects in all of baseball on the line. You probably heard his name a few weeks ago when he threw a no-hitter down in the minors. We have Matt Moore. He's just recently been called up to AAA Durham. We've got him on the line. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are y'all doing?
Hey, doing fantastic. Congratulations on your promotion up to Durham out of Montgomery. Talk about your first start the other night.
It was almost 5 innings, and it was pretty warm. I felt like I got a little bit comfortable out there on the mound, at least enough to to feel things throughout my delivery. And I would like to work deeper in the game, but I realize that it's also my first one, so I'm definitely looking forward to getting out there again.
So with your promotion to Durham, you're reunited with pitching coach Neil Allen, a guy that you worked with down in Port Charlotte a couple of seasons ago. How much has Neil Allen meant to your development as a pitching prospect?
Oh man, the guys helped me out so much. He he comes to the park every day with a great attitude and a lot of energy, and a whole lot of wisdom and knowledge. And last year, me and him worked together, and he basically turned my year around halfway through the year. Things were not going well at all, and it was just a couple of tweaks here and there that he helped me make, and it was definitely I was definitely really happy when I found out I was coming up here and getting to spend some time with him again.
So, when you look at your numbers this year so far, you're 8-3, ERA of 2.18, 107 innings. You've struck out 138 guys. Most impressive is your low walk rate. I mean, you mentioned a couple last year how Neil helped you there a little bit, but this year your control is your best walk rate of your career. What are some things you're doing differently this season that have helped you take your performance to this kind of elite level?
I think it's a combination of a couple of things. Mostly it's mental. I think I'm more in a gear now where I'm attacking guys earlier in the count. I'm really trying to fill up the strike zone early. The earlier I can get out in the count, the more effective I can be with the pitch count that I get. The deeper I can work into the game, which affects the team ultimately. If I can work deeper in the game, that means I'm not giving up a lot of runs, and we're probably in a good situation. And also, save some bullets for let the bullpen get a night off. So basically, if I could boil it down to one thing mentally, it's getting strike one over and challenging guys in the zone early. And then mechanically, it's just been something that I have to slow the process down, slow my windup down, or I don't want to rush or get too quick to the plate.
Just a couple weeks ago, Matt, you participated in the Futures game. Can you describe your experience there?
Yeah, I can. I mean, it was that was probably the most fun I've ever had on the pitcher's mound. I played in front of that many people, and I've been to that stadium and watched Major League Baseball be played there, and to be on that mound and to get up there and to throw against the best guys in the minor leagues, and had my family there and got to see my brother, my mom, and my dad, and aunt and uncles and cousins and stuff. So that was another great thing that just added on to the whole weekend.
Can you talk about, a lot of guys when they first make their first appearance in a major league stadium like that, they're like blown away with the extra level and just the size of the stadium. What was it when you get up on that mound and you take a peek, look back at home plate? Are you zoned in on home plate, or are you blown away by just how massive the facility is compared to where you pitch in the minor leagues?
Well, I think I was definitely blown away by the facility once I first walked out of the dugout and I was in the bullpen. I didn't throw the fourth inning, so I had a few innings to kind of take things in and relax and get control of my emotions and my my heart rate. So when I went out there, I just told myself I want to feel comfortable and I want to feel like this is a bullpen. Don't press too much. This is all for fun, but at the same time, I'm still going to go out there and attack guys. And that was kind of where my mindset was with that. I didn't want to get caught in too much shock and awe and what was going on around me. I wanted to take care of the thing I went there to do.
In talking to a couple of guys this season, one thing that's really stood out from a couple of people that have scouted you is the development of your off-speed pitch. Can you speak to what you've done there to make your changeup such a good pitch for you this season?
Yeah, I mean, basically the only thing I've done to that pitch is I've just thrown it more. Last year, and even the year before that, I was mostly throwing it because I knew I had to have that pitch. I wasn't ever developing it at the rate I am now, and I never thought of it with the same mindset I have now. Whereas I can use it as a weapon and something in my, something for me to get guys out. Whereas I was mostly throwing it just because I had to throw it just to give the hitter another look. But now I'm throwing it to, in different counts that I normally wouldn't be throwing it in to get different results.
Matt, have the Rays given you anything specific to work on this season while you're in Durham?
Yeah, and no. I feel like I figure something out new every day when I go to the field, or at least once every other day, something that I have to keep working on. And it seems like something new's popping up. One thing that I've been working on, trying to mix them in, 2 or 3 a game, is change-ups to lefties. If I can get in favorable counts for me, if I fall behind an account to a lefty, maybe that's where I'll use it. It's working the change-up to lefties and overall fastball command are the 2 biggest things I'm constantly working on and pounding.
Now, last question for you. Both ESPN and Baseball America both came out with mid-season prospect list, and you were the top pitching prospect on both of those. What does that mean to you to hear that, and what do you feel any kind of added pressure with those honors being put on you?
I definitely don't have to feel any more added pressure. Before that list came out, and I haven't taken a look at it, but before that list came out, I feel like I'm the same pitcher I was earlier this year, halfway through earlier last year. So it's definitely something cool to hear, and I'm happy to be where I am right now, and I'm just trying to stay on this everyday grind that everybody does every day. So.
Awesome. Well, Matt, we really appreciate you coming on with us today. Good luck to you and the rest of the Bulls for the rest of this way. I know the Bulls are in first place in the Southern Division. You coming up is going to be a big help to that, so you and Alex Torres and the crew can get these guys back into the postseason for a 5th consecutive year down there in Durham.
Absolutely. Thanks.
All right. Thanks again, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Matt Moore, that is the top pitching prospect in baseball. If you didn't get a chance to see him in the Futures game, you're talking about a guy who at 98 miles an hour, when you get to come in and throw for 1 inning and just let it fire. And this is a guy. The scoreboard had it at 100, and people were really freaking out. I know. Talking with a lot of Rays fans, his first start in Durham was on Friday night. People were, forget about whatever's on TV Friday night. They had their MILB.TV subscription up and were watching Matt Moore because it was the first time outside of the Futures game that you get to see the guy pitch, because AA games aren't on TV or web feeds anywhere, but AAA games are. So one of the things, one of the talk that might come up, will he come up to join the Rays this year? He's not currently on the 40-man roster, so the Rays don't have to do that. He will be on the 40-man roster after this season, but they don't have to bring him up, and traditionally they don't like guys having 3 levels in the same season like this. They don't jump a guy up. They didn't do it with David Price. With Price, actually Price would be an example of that, because they brought him up to do closing in the 2008 postseason run. They used him very sparingly, but because the Rays are likely not going to be in a postseason run this year, I don't see them doing this with Moore, especially because he's not on the 40-man roster. But, stranger things can happen. It's been a strange season and whatnot, but this is definitely a big part of the 2012 and beyond future for the Rays. And even if the Rays were contending right now, there's not a chance that a guy like Matt Moore would be on the trade block. You heard a couple of people mentioning his name. There's not a chance. When you have a guy that caliber level of prospect, teams don't give him up, because that's a guy that projects to be a number 1 or number 2 pitcher.
Yeah, and they had plenty of other youth had they have stayed in the race and maybe been closer to make some moves. And, instead, we're maybe looking at things the other way. We got the trade deadline coming up in just a week here. Mm-hmm. It'll be a little while after our show ends next week. The Rays are going to be sellers now, if anything, obviously. Do you see something getting done? What players are getting called on the most?
Well, B.J. Upton's going to be the biggest guy there, because B.J. is a free agent after next season. When you have a guy like that, the team who owns him, the best time to do it is now, because the team who's trying to get him doesn't look at him as a rental player. You're looking at a season and a half, and if he can help a team get to the postseason this year and next year, the Rays can get more value out of him. You can possibly get 2 top 50 prospects out of that. If they hold on to him to the offseason like they did with Matt Garza last year, then it becomes a different story, because, again, you're looking at a rental thing. But at least with Matt Garza, the Cubs can control him for a little longer. But when you're looking at a 1-year guy, unless it's an elite guy like Cliff Lee was when the Mariners had him, when they traded him over to Texas to get Justin Smoke, that was a highly unusual trade. Justin Smoke was a top 20 prospect. You usually don't get those kind of prospects for a rental guy, but that's how desperate Texas was for pitching, and it worked out. They got all the way to the World Series. It just didn't work out for them against the Giants.
Yeah, and the other night, I guess we found out Joe Madden just likes to screw with us. He pulled B.J. Upton late in the game on Friday. We saw a Phillies prospect get yanked early in the game. People were thinking maybe something was going down there. It wasn't the case at all, though.
It was funny because before the game, Adam Sobsey on Twitter, if you're a Twitter person and really like to follow the Rays, at Sobsey, S-O-B-S-E-Y, is a guy you need to follow. But he said Desmond Jennings was pulled out of the lineup and he wasn't seen in the dugout. So that got everybody, a flutter. Something's happening. Then after the game, another guy said Desmond was just called into the office, into Charlie Montoya's office, who's the manager at AAA Durham. And then within minutes, B.J. Upton was pulled out of the lineup and Johnny Damon was put in left field. Now, Johnny Damon usually only plays left field when it is an interleague game or, some kind of blowout. And this was not a blowout on Friday night. So really everybody's like, oh, God, something's going to happen. Well, nothing happened. And the funny thing was, after the game, Madden's like, hell, if I'd known I was causing that much of a commotion on Twitter, I would have been more creative with my fun. So that would have been pretty. Madden's a great guy for those kind of things, but by this time next Sunday, if B.J. Upton's still in a Rays uniform, I will be very surprised.
So it looks like B.J. Upton probably going to be traded. We'll see if they can get a nice haul for him. They got a pretty good one for Matt Garza. You just heard Matt Moore join us. We'll talk to Eric again coming up soon. We're going to take our second break of the day. You're listening to the ESPN1080.com Insider Show.
Have you heard? Walgreens has generics for less than $1 a week. That's less than $1 a week for a 90-day supply on over 400 generic medications when you sign up for Walgreens Prescription Savings Club. Plus, save on 5,000 other brand name and generic medications. See how much you could save and get $50 in coupons free just for asking about the club.
Program is not insurance. Membership fee required. Membership may be canceled within 30 days of issue date. See store for complete terms and conditions.
What's on the program for this fine day? Get in the Herd with Colin Cowherd.
Well, I'll still listen to the traffic and weather report, but that's it. I have had it with the sports jerk.
Weekdays from 11 to 2, only on ESPN 1080, The Team.
It's the Leaderboard, Mondays 6 to 8 on ESPN 1080 WHOO. This is where the pros come to talk.
Hi, this is Boo Weekly.
Hi, this is Jim Furyk.
Hi, this is Rocco Mediate.
Hi, this is Trevor Immelman.
Hi, this is Zach Johnson.
Hi, this is Woody Austin.
Where the pros come to talk about their game. Live from Celebration Town Tavern.
Hi, this is Corey Pavin, 2010 Ryder Cup captain. Listen to the Leaderboard, Monday evenings, 6 to 8 p.m., right here on ESPN.
Presented by Carl Black Chevrolet Buick GMC.
Want to get away but don't have a lot of time and don't want to spend a lot of money? You can't beat our staycation packages. Some of the best hotels and resorts in Florida at half price. Half price. This radio station has secured these incredible half price deals at some of the most desirable locations, from the beaches to the Orlando theme parks. Now you can afford that getaway you want and need. Getaway! Book your half price staycation. Log on to ESPN1080.com. ESPN1080.com.
AutoZone. Keep your engine going strong with help from AutoZone. Do it now and save when you get a 5+ quart oil change jug of Valvoline conventional motor oil and a Fram Extra Guard oil filter for just $18.99. Or upgrade to Max Life High Mileage and a Fram Tough Guard oil filter for just $3 more. Restrictions and details at store. Parts are just part of what we do. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Advertising works. That is what the great advertisers on ESPN 1080 are enjoying every month. If you own a business or you handle the advertising for a business, then give us a call at ESPN 1080, 407-380-9255. This is the time to take advantage of the summer and fall ad campaigns offered on this station. Call for advertising today at 407-380-9255. Limited time advertising packages that'll make your cash register ring. 407-380-9255. Call today.
ESPN 1080, The Team.
Welcome back to the ESPN1080.com Insider Show. Andrew Melnick, your Orlando Magic and NBA Insider, alongside Jason Collette, your Tampa Bay Rays and MLB Insider, and we're rejoined by Eric Lopez, our UCF insider, and our producer in training. He's going to be our weekend producer. We just like to call him Buckman.
It's a pretty easy name to go by.
Yes, it is. He, while we're on the subject of 2012 and the Rays, he has a question for Jason, our Rays insider.
Yeah, Jason, the projected starting lineup, from a Yankees fan, I'm interested in the Rays' projected lineup for next season because I'm a little bit worried with Hellickson and all that pitching staff. What's the lineup going to look like?
Yeah, well, let's see. If you work around the outfield, I expect Brandon Guyer to be in left field. Maybe they'll call him up here at some point again for the third time this season. Desmond Jennings should be your everyday center fielder with Matt Joyce in right field. Then, obviously, you have Longoria at third base. Shortstop is a big question mark because I don't see that player in the organization right now. Reed Brignac's been a huge disappointment this year. Elliot Johnson is an organizational-type player. He's not a full-time player. Sean Rodriguez has, in full-time play, is exposed against right-handed batters, and he's not the... He's better utilized as a utility guy around the diamond than in any one position. Second base, I think Ben Zobrist is going to be there full-time. He is a very good defensive second baseman. People just don't see it a lot because he plays right field and whatnot at times too. First base remains to be decided because Casey Kotchman's on a one-year deal. He's having a very good year. There are a lot of doubts about him being able to repeat this type of success because if you look at this year against his career numbers, they just aren't. It really stands out as a fluke/career year. And at catcher, Robinson Chirinos, who's recently called up. Jose Lobaton recently called up and then injured. John Jaso. Again, a very fluid situation there. But the pitching staff is where the bread is buttered here. It's going to be Price, Shields, Hellickson's still around. Neiman's going to be here. You've still got Wade Davis. You've got Alex Cobb. We have Matt Moore we just had on. You got to find room. There's 7 guys right there, and then Alex Torres makes 8. There's 8 guys right there that could be in the starting rotation, and you only have 5 spots. So that's why you're going to see some trades between now and next season, because they have to clear room that they can move some of this pitching to get some bats that really sets them up well for the future.
So trading like a B.J. Upton, they'd go for like a catching first base kind of prospect. That's really their only main hole, right?
Really, I mean, there's a couple of things in shortstop as well. So one of the rumors was the Nationals have long been interested in B.J. Upton. Upton's from Virginia Beach, so it's closer to home for him. And 2 prospects that they have, one's in the major leagues right now. Ian Desmond is shortstop, very good defensive player, has some offensive struggles, but he's still young. And then Derek Norris is a top catching prospect for the Nationals. That kind of package would make a lot of sense for the Rays. It would let them fill some holes. You look at the Reds, who have been rumored to be looking at James Shields, who is really not on the trading block, but if somebody's going to give you a king's ransom for James Shields, you have to listen. They've got somebody like Yonder Alonso, a first baseman prospect who's been stuck behind Joey Votto for a while. Devin Mesoraco, one of the top catching prospects in all of baseball, who's stuck in AAA behind Ramon Hernandez right now. And they've also got former Miami Hurricane catcher Yasmani Grandal down there, who's stuck behind Mesoraco. So there are some good matchups out there for the Rays. If they can find one, they'll do it. And now that they're more in a seller's mode, it's easier for them to do that because when they've been in sell mode in the past, they've been very active. When they've been in buy mode as contenders, they've been very inactive.
You mentioned Alex Cobb. He'll go today as the Rays try to avoid the sweep against the Royals. Buckman brought up a point that he's a Yankees fan. You got to sit next to a Boston guy, Jason. Now you got to be across the glass from a New York guy. How can you handle this?
Pepsi Max. Need to have them on as an official sponsor. That's pretty much how I get through this. But I mean, my brother is a Red Sox fan. One of my best friends, Matt, in New Jersey, went to high school with down here at Winter Park. He is also a Red Sox fan. So yeah, I have in my circle of best friends, none of them are Rays fans. So I'm kind of used to this at this point.
Well, I know you didn't grow up a Rays fan. I mean, with being such a new team. I mean, what was your team growing up?
Today I'm wearing my Nolan Ryan Astros jersey because the man had some heart troubles this week. He was in the hospital, so I'm glad he's fine now because my son's middle name is Ryan. Pardon me, is Ryan. I tried to get him named Nolan Ryan Collette, but my wife just wouldn't go that far, so he is Jacob Ryan. But Nolan Ryan, it was my childhood hero and whatnot. So I still follow the Astros. So now both of my teams are pretty much in 2012 mode. And interestingly enough, you keep seeing this rumor out there right now where the new Astros ownership, once it's approved, will be Jim Crane. Jim Crane has this love affair with Rays GM Andrew Friedman. Andrew Friedman's also from Houston. Andrew Friedman's father is essentially the landlord of Minute Maid Park because he helps run the Harris County Stadium group that runs Reliant Stadium and Minute Maid Park. So once Jim Crane finally gets approved, there's probably going to be a power play to try to get Andrew Friedman, or maybe former Astros GM, who's the senior advisor to the Rays right now, Jerry Hunsaker. So that's going to be a situation as a Rays fan you want to keep an eye on. We'll see what happens. As an Astros fan, I know how bad the talent pool is in the organization. Right now they've made news this week. They promoted Jose Altuve. Jose Altuve is a second baseman who started the year in High A California League. Normally, if a guy's in that league, it takes 3 years to get to the majors. Well, Jose Altuve was hitting .390 in the minor leagues this year between High A and Double A. The unique thing about Jose Altuve, he's a few inches taller than my 6-year-old son. He's about 5'6" in cleats. But the guy has been absolutely killing the ball. The Astros said, okay, we're going to call up and see what happens with that. So, but the talent pool is quite thin. Andrew Friedman, when he came to the Rays, had a very deep farm system and movable contracts. Those are two things the Astros don't have. They're still saddled with at least another year of Carlos Lee making $18 million. They've got to pay Hunter Pence here, who's going to go into arbitration. Hunter Pence is already making $7 million, which is one of the reasons why you see him on the trade block right now.
Right. I was just going to ask, what kind of value could they get out of him?
He's the same kind of thing as B.J. Upton. I mean, Hunter Pence is the better player of the two. Again, making 6.9. He's going to go to arbitration, probably make 8.5, 9 next year. So that limits where he can be traded. But Hunter Pence is a very good player. Can play around the outfield. He's kind of a product of the Minute Maid Park. Unusual swing, to say the least. Unusual throwing motion, but he gets results, and I think he'd be a welcome addition to any team looking to make a move in the postseason.
Yeah, you brought up arbitration. Probably the biggest name in the market, Carlos Beltran. The market maybe not as big. Maybe the Mets can't get as much as they'd like from him because you can't offer him arbitration after this season. Can you explain what a big deal that is?
It's a huge deal. I mean, to me, it's worse than a no-trade clause, and Beltran actually has both. This contract, when he signed with the Mets, was a big contract, 7 years, 126, I believe, and he had a full no-trade clause, and the team cannot offer him arbitration once he in his final season. What that means is if the Mets can't move him, they get nothing for him after this season. Typically how the process works, and we'll use Carl Crawford with the Rays last year. The Rays did not trade Carl Crawford, kept him, offered him arbitration, which he clearly declined. Arbitration's a 1-year offer. Once you decline that and another team signs you, in Carlos Beltran's case, he's going to be a Type A free agent. So a Type A free agent gets you the first-round pick from the team that signed your free agent and gets you another pick from MLB. If you trade for Carlos Beltran, you don't get to do that. So you are truly renting a player for the rest of 2011 and then helping him pack his bags and get out the door. You get no compensation in return. The Mets are asking for a big prospect in return for Carlos Beltran. In order to do that, they're going to have to foot most of the bill on Beltran's contract because no team is going to give up a top 20 prospect to rent a player for 3 months unless it's guaranteed to get them to the World Series. And even then, you've got to have a lot of depth. The Rangers would be a system, but the Rangers already have enough offense. Boston, they already have enough offense. Offense is not their problem. Carlos Beltran's trade market's rather limited.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of names, or a lot of teams getting thrown out like the Red Sox. We've heard the Giants, which would make sense. We've heard the Phillies, which could make some sense. Do you think he's going to be moved? I mean, it sounds like the Mets are almost left with no other option, that they're going to maybe have to take a reduced package or have to take on a ton of salary. Is he going to get moved, and where do you think he's going to get moved?
Yeah, he'll get moved. I mean, the team's asking for him on their driver's seat here because, again, if the Mets get to August 1st and they've done nothing, it's really going to look bad. They need to make a move. And like I said, Boston, New York, Texas, they have offense. They need pitching, so they don't need to go with Beltran. San Francisco makes a ton of sense because they have a lot of pitching and they desperately need a bat. Philadelphia has had problems with offense consistency. They have the names. Ryan Howard is not having a good year. Chase Utley was missed a lot of time. Raul Ibanez is looking older and whatnot. So they need some consistent bat. That would help them out as well. But the Mets will have to do something. But this is going to be one of the last moves of the deadline because the Mets have no leverage here, and just trying to see who's going to blink first. But I could see this easily being one of the names that's traded within the last half an hour of the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think one thing that's been overlooked because of the injuries he's had, 2009, 2010, I think he played but less than half a season each year. He's been fantastic for the Mets. I mean, he's put up huge numbers every season that he's been healthy, and he's doing it again. So this is clearly a guy that would be a giant help. For me, you mentioned it just then, the Giants makes the most sense by far to me if they're looking to repeat as champs. Talking about the market further, though, you mentioned the Yankees, you mentioned the Red Sox, you mentioned some other teams like Texas, all teams that would be in the playoffs right now that really, for whatever reason, whether it's injuries or the failure to sign Cliff Lee, which the Yankees maybe thought they had in the bag, Texas, who lost Cliff Lee, are these teams going to get a starting pitcher? What's going to happen here? Are we going to see a big-time starting pitcher get moved, or maybe just an afterthought kind of guy?
Well, your two big names are Ubaldo Jimenez and James Shields. Both of these guys have very team-friendly contracts. So the reason why you're even hearing their names is because of the lack of good starting pitching on the market. Again, both of these guys can easily be kept by the Rockies and the Rays for the next 3 years without hurting them financially. So I don't see the big name. I see the bigger names in relief. Heath Bell with the Padres, Mike Adams with the Padres. Those types of guys are going to be where the action is.
Yeah, we're talking about some good relievers here. We've heard some other names, Roki Kuroda, some kind of Aaron Harang, guys like that are maybe a little, maybe not marquee names, but could potentially help one of these teams, because you look at the Red Sox with Buckles still out, Dice out for the year. You look at the Yankees with some pitching problems. Maybe their two signings here, Freddie Garcia, Bartolo Colon, starting to maybe go back to reality here. I mean, these are teams that maybe need that one more pitcher to get things done, and you don't really see that happening.
No, I really don't. I mean, with Kuroda, that's another guy who's got a full no-trade clause. He really likes pitching on the West Coast, being from Japan, being closer to homeland. Aaron Harang is a guy that needs a big ballpark to pitch, fly ball pitcher. I would hesitate. I would really not want to see Aaron Harang pitching in Yankee Stadium or Fenway. It would not be a pretty situation. So, I just don't see the market out there. If you want a good starting pitcher, you're going to have to pay for it. I think if the Rays move one, it's going to be Jeff Neiman because of where his contract situation is and whatnot. And they definitely need to clear some room at some point. But this is really not a great market for starting pitching. If you're going to get one, you're going to get a guy that's going to help the back end of your rotation. But there's more action to be had at the bullpen, and I think that helps the teams that are in sell mode because the demand is greater than the supply. Somebody is going to make a bad trade during this trade deadline.
Yeah. So Jason, my question is: so a week from today, where is B.J. Upton, James Shields going to be at?
James Shields is still going to be in Tampa Bay, and I believe that Upton is going to be either in Cleveland or Washington.
One name you brought up to me last night, Jason, talking about Boston Inquired, maybe some other teams, was Rich Harden. We saw him pitch against the Yankees yesterday afternoon. Actually pitched pretty well. We know he's good when he's healthy. What's the market for a guy like that?
That's the thing, the health risk. Rich Harden, when he's on, can be extremely dominating. I always thought Rich Harden would be a very good closer. If you look at his career splits, pitch 1 to 40, he's as good as any pitcher in baseball. He tires after that. He's got a very stressful pitching motion. It looks almost like a guy shooting a bow and arrow. And it really is. That's why he's broke down so much, because the delivery is not the one you want your kids looking at and say, son, pitch like that. No, don't. So I would see him being a good addition, even working as a bullpen. So if you can't get the Mike Adams, the Heath Bell to help your bullpen, go get Rich Harden and put him in the bullpen, because I think him working 30 pitches an outing would be a very effective addition to any bullpen right now.
Yeah, and with Soriano and Chamberlain's injuries, with the Red Sox maybe needing another reliever, this is something maybe we could see happen in the AL East. Maybe turn those two teams, separate them a little more. One other quick couple of names I want to throw out to you. A couple former Rays that play in Chicago. Carlos Pena started getting hot. I mean, you know what you're getting from him, a guy who's going to get on base, going to hit for power most of the time, not going to hit for average. And then you mentioned Matt Garza, who's still under team control. And we'll throw out Aramis Ramirez, too. He's starting to play better, starting to get a little more power that's seemingly disappeared. Anything going to happen there?
Henry's already said he doesn't want to move Ramirez or Garza. It makes sense to move Pena. Pena's on a one-year deal. He's due about $4 million the rest of the season. If somebody needs that, problem is, left-handed first baseman has the power, but San Francisco would be one spot for that kind of need and whatnot. But I don't know at this point if they're going to get something that's not going to be something the Cubs fans are going to like in return. It's going to be a low-level prospect for what's left, and they're not going to be happy either way.
No, and you don't want to move Matt Garza after, and get not much in return, especially after all you gave up to get him. I mean, fantastic trade that wound up being for Tampa, who needed, room in their rotation anyway.
Exactly. I mean, they gave up 5 prospects in that trade to get Garza and Fernando Perez, who they've since released. So, when you eat into your depth like that, if you're going to trade a Garza, a Ramirez, or a Pena, you need to get guys to get back into your depth.
Yeah, absolutely, you do. That's all for today. We're going to be back next week.
Well, some of us will be. I won't be.
Well, we're going to still hit on the trade deadline. Even more so, we're hopefully going to get Jason on the line.
Oh, yeah. We'll trade places next week. I'll be on the phone, and Lopez will be here in the studio. I will be live from St. Augustine next week.
Live from St. Augustine. Familiar with that place, actually. Used to do some radio up there. The trade deadline coming up next week. We'll have pretty much a preview. It's going to be baseball-centric again because, the deadline is a very exciting time. We just talked, all these rumors now. We still got Eric on the line. Eric, we'll take out Carlos Beltran because he's definitely going to be moved. We've only got a minute left, but I want to get your thoughts. What do you think? Who do you think? Is going to be the top player moved in this week?
I think Heath Bell. That's going to be the interesting question. Where does Heath Bell go? And does he go as a closer to a team, or does he go as a setup guy to a team like the Yankees, or even a Boston type team? That's going to be I'm curious about, or Texas.
Saw Buckman's eyes light up a little bit when you mentioned the Yankees and Heath Bell. Be quite an acquisition for them. Would be nice for Boston too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be. I mean, that's the guy. If there's a bad trade to be made, it's going to be there. Somebody's going to overpay for that need at the back end of the bullpen. I think for me, if you're going to overpay, you got to do it for an everyday player. The bullpen guys just aren't that important in the big picture compared to an everyday bat.
You've just listened to another edition of the ESPN1080.com Insider Show. For Eric Lopez, our UCF insider. For Jason Collette, our Rays and MLB insider. And for me, Andrew Melnick, your Orlando Magic and NBA insider. We'll see you next week, 10 a.m. Sunday.